color, and again using the curvature texture. And lastly, I'm using, what is this? Oh, this is for the holes. I'm using, for example, these parts, these small dots, to simulate some damaging to the rock. Okay, I did the same. If you see the base color, we have these effects, and I did the same for the other tone, like this one, for example. This is the grunge map. This is another grunge map with a stronger intensity here. This is the AO, using the baked AO. Some brighter tones, say soft tones on the edges, and some sharp edges with a lighter tone to give it more of that stylized look. And lastly, this cavity map that I'm using to give them a little bit more of depth to the walls. Okay, so I did the same process for the other color, which has some grunge. This grunge is kind of the same for the other tones, and it's a procedural grunge I used from the resources in the Substance Painter. I have this kind of AO to, in this case, to simulate some dirt accumulated in these crevices and these cavity areas. I have, of course, these cavities here with a multiply, using again the texture, the curvature texture that we baked, and again this broad soft edge together with this sharp and a little bit lighter edges. And I'm not sure this one is, oh, and this is the same as the first one. These are the dots with a bit of height. For the other metals, I have this kind of brass for the bolts. Also, I have this for the golds, and I use this on the cloth part for the banner. Also, I have this base material for the windows. I'm not gonna worry too much about it because this gonna have some emissive details and painting. And lastly, just to make sure that there are not artifacts or some unwanted views, I just put this black material to these kind of planes to simulate the interior. After that, I just keep basically doing the same, using the same technique for the rest of the materials. For example, the shingles have some AO for the crevices and the cavities. It has the same cavity. It has some edge. In this case, I have the same AO but inverted, so I can have these kind of highlighted edges instead of using the curvature map. And some grunge with multiply with the AO, and I mean using the AO as a mask with a grunge applied on top, just to give this kind of effect. And if you see here, this one has kind of, it's very subtle, but it has some bluish, kind of bluish purple tone on top of the red. So I'm going to show you for the glass. I didn't put too much effort on the glass. I just give them I just gave it a little bit of this kind of greenish tone here, but nothing else, just the metallic and the roughness, which is rougher on the cavities and less rougher in the center of the glass. And we have the same for the, the same as the rest of the walls and the shingles. We have the same for the metals, which I have here. The metal has just this grunge applied with these kind of slashes. It has some cavity, some broad edges with some soft effect, the sharper edges, again using the curvature, same for the AO, and some subtle effect I did here. And we can go and move forward with the golds here. Same technique, just broad and soft edges. These are the sharper edges, and some dark AO with a low intensity, just to give a little bit of depth. If we see the overall color, the material, and the roughness channel, you see that I have this kind of tone in the roughness channel, which gives me this not so shiny effect, which I'm looking for looking at my references. For example, I have this, which is not too bright or too shine, so it works for now. And for the cloth, I have this. Oops, sorry. I have this, the base color. I have some dark AO, some light AO, and here I have the cavities for the wrinkles that you can see here, and I just gave it a kind of a bluish purple tone here to break the red tone here, and I just added this effect, this border with some height in it. I added this. I didn't know what to put here, so I just decided to go with some classic Hero of the Storm logo. And the final touch, some edge mask with a little bit of, what is this? Yeah, a light tone here in overlay. So to finish this, I'm going to show you what I did for the windows. I just have this, as I said earlier, I have this this base, and no, I did this metal frame for these two windows. Remember that this is overlaps in the UV, so I just paint this mesh, and it's gonna be applied here, and here, and here, in the four towers, the four corners. So if we see the material, I have the little bit of height effect here, and I just started to add some kind of gradients, as you can see here, to have this effect. If we look at the references, I have, for example, these ones. I wanted to achieve this kind of effect for the windows, for the light. So I try to match the style for the gradient and also the colors. For the door, I just try to match this kind of this look, this style. And again, I try to match the color and the gradients, and also this extra for the center. In these ones, these three layers, I just have the same. For example, I have the same color applied to the emissive, so the emissive has the same color as the base color on the three of the on these three layers. So after a first pass on the texturing here in Substance Painter, we can start exporting the meshes, the meshes, no, the textures to the engine, Marmoset Toolbag, or in my case, Unreal Engine 4. So here in Unreal, I bring my mesh, and I bring my textures, which I have here. These 4 textures. You can do the same for the Marmoset Toolbag. I just have my mesh here imported, and I have my material here in Marmoset with this kind of the same settings. I have the normal map, the roughness, the metalness, and the occlusion, which I'm using also in the cavity map, and of course the emissive map and the base color. I didn't tweak this material too much, so this is how it looks like, kind of default, except for the like, obviously, but this is just the material. For the rocks and trees, although I just had the concept for the tower, I wanted to make a small environment scene with some rocks, trees, and nature around it. No extra building needed or man-made props needed. So I started to gather more references from the game and Michael Vicente portfolio and Rancoprosos. I wanted to make this kind of trees and this kind of rocks. For the rocks, I just wanted to have 2 types. Some smaller rocks which I can move freely and scatter around on the floor, and some bigger rocks which could be modular to be able to stack them and place them next to each other and achieve that kind of cliff or rocky wall effect. So with these 2 references in mind, I just started to make some sculpt tests, and eventually I ended up with these models. I have here like 2 kind of trunk for the trees and this kind of trunk, and for the rocks I have like these 3 types of small rocks and these 2 types of bigger rocks, to be able to place them next to each other, as I said earlier. In the case of the rocks, for example, I have here this small rock. I'm going to show you quickly what I did. I just started with a base geometry with a sphere, and just apply some dynamics dynamesh to the rock, which is kind of high here, but we're not going to worry about it. And just started to use the clip curve brush that you can select here and start making some cuts. Oops.